Hello and thanks for visiting our website, rebuilderinAbox.com. Today we're going to learn how to rebuild the 10SI alternator. The 10SI is known for three basic positions, and they're in reference to the dual plug, which is the voltage regulator. For example, on this alternator, the threaded ear, the adjusting ear, is straight up at 12 o'clock, and the bottom pivot ear is at 6 o'clock. The voltage regulator is at 12 o'clock. So that's called straight up or 12 o'clock position. On this one, when the threaded ear, the adjusting ear is straight up, and the pivoting ear, the elongated ear, is down at 6 o'clock. The voltage regulator is off to the right, 3 o'clock. And on this one, when the threaded ear is straight up, the voltage regulator plug-in position is off to the left, which is considered 9 o'clock. So what we have here is two 10SIs and a 12SI. You can see the 12SI is a little bit different, the way the rectifier is mounted in, but other than that, they're extremely similar in the way the parts are constructed together. The 10SI was very popular in the 37 and the 63 amp versions, and the 12SI came in a 37, a 66, and very popular 78 amp. Also, many of the 12SIs, unlike this one, have a plastic turbine type fan that was stock. So let's start taking one apart. Here you see the 5/16 bolt that's holding it together. There's 4 of them on all 4 corners. Take those out. Take a magic marker or a piece of paint or something to scratch it with and put a mark across the side so you can get it back together in the same position that you took it apart at. We're going to use a 1/2-inch impact gun with 15/16 socket and a rag. Put the rag around the pulley. Hold on to it with one hand and take the pulley nut off. Then we remove the pulley nut, lock washer. The pulley comes off. Sometimes these are in 2 pieces, a spacer and a hollow pulley. Take the fan off, and there's a spacer right here that we need to take off and get it out of the way. Then we're going to take a hammer and hold on to the back plate and the stator winding, the metal part in the middle, with your fingers, and tap off the front half. If the rotor comes with it, that's okay. Looking down into the back of the alternator, looking down inside it, here's the major components. This is the stator winding, radio noise suppressor capacitor, diode trio, rectifier, where 6 diodes are, brush holder assembly, voltage regulator. What we're going to do is take the 3 11/32 nuts off next, and you can see this brush springs right there. Reach in and get those out of the way so they don't get tangled up in something that they shouldn't be. Taking the stator out of the housing, take your fingers and stick them underneath, holding the stator down inside, and with a hammer, tap on the outer edges of the back plate. And basically what we're going to do at this point is just go ahead and unbolt everything. You can see the 2 1/4-inch heads here, the 1/4-inch. There's 3 bolts, screws that hold down the voltage regulator brush holder assembly. 2 of them are insulated. This one over here is a ground, and there's a ground tab underneath that on the voltage regulator. Also the 7/16 battery stud, take that off too. We're going to go ahead and take the front plate and the bearing off the shaft, and underneath here you'll see the 3 screws holding the bearing in. These are 5/16 usually. Take the 3 screws out and the bearing cover off. And here we're taking a look at the parts that it's time to do cosmetic on, if you plan on doing any cosmetic. If you want to just wash it up in solvents, don't use any kind of gasoline. This is the back plate, the front plate, the pulley, and the fan. Have it bead blasted, chromed, polished, just paint it, whatever you want to do, but leave the old bearings in it at this point, because especially if you have it chromed, you don't want any chrome getting down inside the outside race where the bearing won't press fit in again. Same thing with this one. Just leave the old bearing in there and bead blast it first, so that you remove the old bearing after the bead blasting's done, and then put the new bearing in. Also, the rotor is ready to be painted, either with some varnish or just regular paint, and then run some sandpaper or scotch brite over the slip rings, the shaft where the needle bearing goes, and the shaft where the drive-in bearing goes, for ease of assembly. Right at this point, if you wanted to do an ohm meter check, you could check for continuity from slip ring to slip ring. This is one big long wire in a coil going from point A to point B. So clean that up with some scotch brite or sandpaper, and when you clean this up with the scotch brite, take very careful notice that there are no pits or grooves or little tiny gouges in this part of the shaft, because that is a physical contact with the needle bearing itself, and if there's any pits in there, it ruins the new needle bearing. This is the stator. You want to visually inspect it as close as you possibly can. Check all the coils, all of the windings for any signs of heat or any signs of anything melting, varnish melting out. If you want to use an ohm meter, you can check for continuity among all 3. They will all have continuity to each other, but none of them will have continuity to anything that's considered ground, the metal part. Next, what we did was we took some black tape and wrapped the stator leads. You'll notice that the black tape is wrapped clear down almost to the end of the eyelet itself, so that the metal part of the leg of the eyelet is wrapped in black tape. We recommend Scotch 88T or Super 88 3M black tape products for the automotive industry. A lot of generic black tapes are just simply not